Can the grid handle all the green power we've gonna got coming in? 100% renewables? Is that just a fantasy? I'm Brian. Welcome to my Tesla Weekend. Did want to say a quick thanks to new patrons Kevin, Nicola Ikonomov, Joel, and Morty, and new and upgrading patrons Nigel, Andy, thank you so much, Anthony, and John. And a reminder that the Austin Investor Day pregame is coming up in just a few days, next Wednesday. Tickets are available on account of them being free, and it's a huge, huge park. It's a sports complex that's got like 8 softball fields and baseball fields. It is huge. Midday, midweek. Doesn't get crowded without us making the crowd. So the grid, man, let's talk about it. What is the grid made up of? You've got your base load, which is the amount that's just going to be steady there all along. And then the other things that add up on top of it. Now this chart here will show you that coal has historically made up an outsized portion of our grid, with gas picking up a lot of the slack, and some others, like the renewables up here in blue and yellow, projected to take an increasingly larger percentage of the demand. That's great. And nuclear, this pink band here, is not showing growth, which I think may be inaccurate. I think nuclear will grow over the next 20, 30 years, for sure. But some plants will be going offline as others will come online. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. So this is what it looks like over a longer period of time. What does it look like in the course of a day? So baseload power, it's the amount that you need just kind of running around the clock. One thing about nuclear is it likes to get up to power and stay at power. Gas and coal can move up and down more quickly. Hydro, the quickest of all, is a very good baseload. But if you look back at 2012, during the course of a day, this is what power looked like. Solar, of course, only produces during the best parts of the day. And it does that every day. And then you've got wind providing variable amounts throughout the week, but it also provides at night, because the wind blows at night. But fast forward just 8 years, and it looks more like this, where solar is taking up a larger portion, and it's better smoothed out by adjusting the conventional things, like pumped hydro, coal and gas, and nuclear. How do we make this work when we take out all of these? And can we? And should we? Well, the coal and gas, yes, we should get rid of those. As much as possible. We may still need peaker plants for a while, but it remains to be seen. And you can see that this actually went too far. It went too far. It was too much. How do we fix that? Especially if we're going to increase the wind and solar. So this is a cleaner look at it. Baseload, coal or nuclear. For our sake, we're going to talk about hydro. Now, there isn't hydro everywhere, but hydro does have a good length of transmission that can offset that. Intermediate need, gas, peaker plants, and fast peaking, hydro or the combustion turbine. That's the peaker plant. These are more conventional steam power plants. All of these will be linked in the description after the show ends. So how do we get it so that we've got this all going? Well, the first thing we need is the green baseload. Why aren't we looking at more hydropower? I'll save you the read on this one. It's because it takes a lot of land. The one thing about land is they're not making any more of it. But we can better utilize the hydro we have, and in many cases we already are, by putting in more efficient turbines and better utilizing the resources we have. But let's talk about the solar. Draw me a duck. So this is, over the years, a look at how much the duck curve comes into effect. This is overproduction of solar. And as we get more solar, we're overproducing more and more. Now, one nice thing about solar is it can be everywhere. It can be on your roof, and my factory's roof, and my hotel's roof. It can be everywhere. But overproduction is a risk. And then, of course, In the evening, as it gets dark, there is no overproduction because there is no production. Neat thing that you can do to offset this is like these solar panels on the roof of Giga Texas do not face south as you would expect. They face west. So what that means is their peak is not here, but over here, closer to 3, 4 p.m. So they produce less power during the optimal hours, but more power when it's actually needed. That's a good thing. So intermittent, you've got your base load. Wind and solar aren't constantly available and not always predictable. They're offered as intermittent power support resources. Again, all of this will be linked. And in terms of a green base load, 7 reasons why nuclear is not the answer. We're just going to look at the first 2, which are there's a long lag time between planning and entering operation, and the cost is very high. It is the most expensive power available right now. The all of the above approach seems to be a good one, but we can't wait for nuclear when solar and wind are deployed rapidly. If you run out of money 90% of the way through a solar project, you get 90% of the power you were expecting, versus nuclear, where you have to hit 100% or you get no power ever. Overbuild for longevity and reliability. So that's the solution. That's the big bullet point, is we need to overbuild. Now, the law of large numbers. This Scientific American article is wonderful. It covers a lot of the things we're talking about today, and it's where much of this research came from. The law of large numbers. Just overbuild it. Create so much that it's always enough. Well, now we're going to have too much. Now we're going to need to curtail it. Now we're going to waste power. Now we're going to pay for solar arrays that we're not going to use, or wind turbines that are going to expire before we can actually get the power out of them. And that's not quite the case. A lot of solar arrays track the sun. If you have too much sun, you can untrack the sun. You can look away. Looking away reduces the efficiency, gets you less juice during the same amount of time. And this doesn't mean that, well, we've only got 20, 25, 30 years before these expire. They don't expire because they get old and sleepy. They expire because of UV rays. So when they're not generating juice, they're not expiring. The same is true with wind power. Wind power, I had something on this. Give me a moment. The thing with wind power is you can also curtail it. If you've ever driven by a wind farm, you'll see that some of the turbines are not spinning. They may be down for maintenance. They may be offline entirely, or they may have just been stopped temporarily to prevent overproduction of power. So you can curtail solar and wind. And the same thing is true with these. They don't get old and sleepy. They wear out. Revolutions is what wears them out. Any revolution it doesn't do today is one it can do again at the end of its life instead. Predicting wind and solar. Do you know you can predict the weather? See, it's not going to be sunny every day, and it's not going to be windy every day, but we do know that it's sunnier in the summer and windier perhaps in the winter. It's all predictable. And you can predict it out a few days in advance, which means you can instead, if you know it's going to be dark or still and calm, you can just look at the weather forecast and produce more hydro. Stanford study suggests that wind energy output increases when people need heat the most. Yeah, when it's cold and stormy is when you need the heat. And on a bright sunny day, there might not be any wind, but there's wind on a dark and cloudy day when it's stormy or breezy. So they tend to offset each other in many cases. Reservoirs are essentially a battery. Now, I don't mean pumped hydro. That's a good thing too. But again, there's limited space available for it. But any gallon you don't put over the dam through a turbine today is one you can hold on to for tomorrow. Now, there's limits to this. You can't do it forever. But even just a few inches, a few feet of water in a large reservoir has tremendous potential energy. And also by keeping the water higher, it has more kinetic energy going down to the turbine, which may increase the power. And water that you don't use to generate hydro is, in many cases, water that you can use to irrigate fields. That might be a benefit as well. So if you're overbuilding and you're predicting the weather, we know we've got some clear and sunny days. We're going to get good solar, leave a little more water in. And the other benefit is hydroelectric plants spin up faster than any of the other baseload methods. You can get hydro running in 10 minutes. Full power in 10 minutes. 25% of the plants can go from startup, being shut down, to fully operating within an hour, and many of them 10 minutes. So those things combined make for a pretty good storm of things you want. There's also long-distance transmission. While it's true that it's not always windy here, it's almost always windy somewhere. Now, in the world, there are places where power is already transmitted 1,500 miles. There's a long list here. All over the world with 1,200 to 1,500 mile transmission lines. And these aren't fantasy. We have one in the US that goes from Washington all the way to Los Angeles. It's a 1,000-mile run, 900-mile, 1,000-mile run. Provides 3.1 gigawatts, enough to serve 2 to 3 million LA households. Represents almost half of the LA Department of Water and Power's electrical system's peak capacity. We already do this. Are you telling me there's nowhere in this entire stretch where we're not going to have power? Or we're not going to have wind or solar? And yeah, cloud cover could affect your rooftop or my rooftop, but the more rooftops we have, the more partial clouds don't matter. The more it balances out, the more it smooths out. And yes, who is this points out, they only need 1.21 gigawatts, but we're going to travel through time at least twice, so more than double is helpful. Time of use pricing and just time of use systems can do a lot of the heavy lifting. So in California, they have different rates at different times. And this is increasingly common because when there's super peak times, you don't need, there are things you don't need to do with your power. Last winter, this winter there was a power shortage in California, and the state asked EV owners, hey, could you do me a favor and not charge until later in the evening when the super peak has passed? And enough people said, yeah, of course, I don't want to pay the extra rate, that it saved the system. So, time of use by itself can do a lot of the heavy lifting. Mark points out that batteries deliver power in milliseconds, and yes, we will get to that. Right now, in fact, grid, home, and auto storage. So there's this little project called the Megapack that a little company called Tesla makes. They're cranking these out at a ridiculous pace. They're already able to replace an entire peaker plant in about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, depending on the size of it. These will help smooth the grid, but they'll also provide tremendous amounts of power. The more of them that are built, the more it can do. Combine that with transmission lines that can go long distances, and you're starting to see some solutions. But then, I don't know who this guy is. Great video. You got to check that channel out. In this, I talked about the fact that using cars and power walls is already a thing in some places to help alleviate strain on the grid, to sell back power at times when the grid needs it more than you do, at a price that is agreeable to you. All of that will work. And then, of course, in the pre-show chat, it was pointed out that the grid is straining, as it is, regardless of what power we're using. Local power helps the grid. If your new factory is drawing some of its power from the rooftop, that's less that needs to go from the grid in the first place. If your house is doing it, that's less that needs to go from the grid. The more we can decentralize, the better it is. A decentralized grid helps everyone. It helps the power companies. It helps the people who have to maintain these high voltage lines. It helps everyone. Ooh, I got through it, man. So, of course, thanks as always to my patrons who get early access, bonus content, an ad-free experience in many cases, and all that good stuff. Let's get into the Q&A, shall we? Let's do that. I don't want to look at that. We'll just put that on. How is everybody? I'm turning my heat on because I am. Because it is, for the uninitiated, 45 degrees in here. It's about, what, 8 Celsius? It's chilly. This is not a insulated structure, and my heater can only do so much. Jeff says that his neighbors need fewer transformers with more solar. That's a good thing. Let's see. Most EVs have some scheduling feature. That is a feature Jeff and I have talked about. Not most. Bear from Bear's Workshop has quite an extensive Turo fleet, and he said that the Mustang is the only one he's aware of that has scheduling among all of his cars. He's got a Polestar, a Hyundai, a few Teslas. I think that might be it. And then some plug-in hybrids. Yeah, 4, I think. 4 or 5. Vegas needs more solar to raise the level behind the dam. Yeah, Hoover Dam is dry. Oh, are they even producing power out of Hoover anymore? Yeah, I guess they are. Yeah, they need more solar so they can rebuild their watershed a little bit. Yeah, the wind doesn't always blow and it doesn't always shine. Why only generate in real time? That's one thing we didn't discuss is the other batteries that are coming online. The iron air battery, the flow batteries, sodium ion, lower density, cheaper chemistries that appear to be solved technologies that can be deployed for grid scale storage. We don't need weeks or months or even days of backup. We need hours. Even a day would be excessive because you're going to be generating power somewhere. On a cloudy day, your solar panel still generates. Todd asked, batteries fix all of this as well. I do believe so. Rethink X says you need 3 to 5 times demand for renewable energy and 30 to 45 hours of storage. 45 hours of storage seems excessive. That would assume 2 days of no wind and no sunshine. That's excessive. And no hydro. No, that's excessive. That's too much. 45 hours of storage. That would be impressive. But I don't think necessary. And the thing is, this isn't going to happen overnight. It can't. So we're going to have an opportunity to watch it kind of unfold and patch over the shortcomings as needed. Tony Seba, videos rock. Tony Seba is, as far as I can tell, a time traveler because his ability to recognize disruptive technologies and see them for what they are is unique. If you're not familiar with Tony Seba, check him out. He does some amazing work. All the major basins have dried up with no relief in sight. That's unfortunate. And one problem is when a watershed is depleted, it collapses. In many cases, it cannot be restored. Water will not solve it. It is done. So that's something that also needs to be addressed and considered. Ika says, no problem with overproduction. Use battery banks to absorb the overproduction. Yes, if you can. You can't always do that. Certainly not with the amount of batteries we have today. But there are other ways to use it. There are also, with time of use, you could make it so that power in the overnight, or when there is too much production, is very cheap. In Germany, last year, I think, there was a time overnight when the cost of power went negative. You were paid to charge your car at night. Pretty interesting. Make hydro a battery by pumping water back up to turbines when too much power. Yes, you just need the space. You need the space is what it is. In Grand Coulee, where the Grand Coulee Dam is, once the water goes down through one particular set of turbines, much of it is pumped back up to go down to Coulee City. A lot of that's for irrigation and leisure, and to maintain the water flows there. But they also have a hydro dam, a hydroelectric dam, that generates a little bit more juice as it clears the lake. Unit 3 at Browns Ferry has taken decades. Yeah. There's a plant, what's it called? The nuclear power plant that's coming online in South Carolina that is 250% over budget and 6 years late so far, and it is about to come online, and it's frustrating. The nuclear industry would be wise to not look at these projects as a blank check, because they're forfeiting their credibility and making it a real tough sell. Charlie says, as someone working nuclear, I am bearish on nuclear growth in the U.S. The cost overruns to build Georgia, that's it. And the decade of delays, I cannot imagine buying those bonds. Investors don't like to buy those bonds. The people who get stuck paying for it are the ratepayers, and they don't have a say in the matter. So it's very frustrating. Yes, hello to everybody, TechFixer and Ika and Todd and Digital Blade Canada and John. And who is this? I didn't see MD Hofstein here. Maybe he's at the bottom and I just missed him. Hey, Mark. Good to see you. Grace, good to see you. Yeah. Let's get back down to the bottom and see what we're missing. When I was at Lake Mead last June, 2 of the turbine towers were offline due to lack of head. Part of the drought is that a good deal of the Colorado River has been diverted near its source. I understand another problem was that when they surveyed the Colorado River for annual flows 100 years ago, they happened to do it during a particularly heavy season of rain, so all the estimates of who could use how much water upstream were grossly inaccurate, and as such, Mexico does not get the agreed upon amount of water. Unfortunate. SpaceX Crew 6 launches in 2 days. Also another Starlink launch. That's very fun. I still watch them live. I can't help myself. Building a nuclear plant is about as difficult as building an airport near Berlin. For those who don't know, the Berlin airport took 20 years. It's open now, but it was frequently cited as a reason why Tesla would have to be crazy to build a factory in Germany. And I think they've done pretty well with it. Will I be participating in the analysis event at Nikola? No. Oh, the analyst event. No, I have not been invited. I don't know when it is. So no, I don't believe that that's something they would like me to participate in. But I could certainly look into it and see when it is. I've got kind of a lot of travel on my schedule and but there are a number of things in Arizona I might wish to check out if possible. Yeah. You need higher amounts of real estate and storage for darker up north areas. Yes, solar does great in northern climates in the summer. But in the winter, as you approach the Arctic Circle, winter production nears zero. Okay. Excess energy can be used for hydrogen production. It can be used for a bunch of things. There is an aluminum smelter in eastern Washington, Alcoa, that got a deal on their power that was so cheap, 4 cents a kilowatt hour maybe, that for years they've been paid to not buy the electricity. We'll give you money, just don't take it. We can sell it to someone else who actually needs it. They could come back online. They could have enough power to resume aluminum production. You could use it for a lot of things. But hydrogen production is, at best, another form of battery. The long backup time is for a solar and wind only system. Okay. Oh, the Bechtel peaker plants. What dogs? Bechtel clueless. Yeah. How are we doing? Good. We're doing good on time. The winds do tend to blow well up north. What are the odds of a new vehicle reveal on March 1st? I'm going to say very high. I would say my guess is yes, they absolutely will. Maybe, I'm going to say better than 50-50. I'm going to say 80% chance, 90% chance, real high. I assume we're going to see something new that is a vehicle. We'll also be hearing, apparently, about SpaceX and boring operations, which is interesting. I'm not sure how that ties in as investors, but maybe, I don't know. Okay. So a reminder, if you're going to be in Texas, come say hello, March 1st. The time we've got it at is from 11 to really 4. It says at noon, it's 11. Alexandra Mertz is joining us as a guest speaker. She will be on at noon. We'll also have Ellie in Space. We'll have drone pilots Joe, Brad, and Brian. And I will be there, I believe. And we've got some other speakers lined up as well who will be interesting and insightful. So, John wants to know, if they bring a new vehicle March 1st, how long to production? It depends which vehicle. If they show a compact, my guess would be under a year, because the risk of Osborning the Model 3 is too great. They can't risk it. They got to get it and get it out quick. If it's a commercial vehicle, a van, a shuttle bus, a boring tunnel, mixed use kind of form factor, could be more like a year and a half or 2. But I think unless what they introduce is somehow radical in its philosophy, like the Cybertruck, it would not be an impossible task to get it going sooner. And I would imagine that they've already got some of the work done, enough of it done that it wouldn't be crazy. Charlie says, no new vehicle next week. Not going to happen. Yeah, maybe. I'm very curious. David says, I would bet if they reveal a new vehicle, they will already be half done building the assembly line. I wonder. I've always waited for the day when they say, here's a new vehicle, we just introduced it, and sales go on now. First 100 are ready. I would love it. So I'm not sure. Ooh. Grace Hopper's Crunch is saying, I'm FSDing from Southern California. See you at noon. See you then. A lot of folks saying, not going to happen. We will not see a new vehicle. I don't know. I believe Investor Day and Extreme Scale do not require the announcement of a new vehicle. We might hear about BOT. We might hear Optimus. We might hear about grid energy. I think we will definitely hear about Megapack. We might hear factory announcements. Hello, Jamie. Good to see you. So that's all that. So there we go. Oh, we should check the poll. See, do you participate in polls? Yes is the answer. Apparently, hat and walking did not perform well. Maybe they'll reveal the final production Cybertruck. That would be nice. Did any Teslas with the BYD Blade batteries ever get made? I was asked this in the comments earlier today on a video, and I went to look, and I can't find. All I could find was the announcements that it was going to happen, but no confirmation that it actually did. So I don't know the answer to that, and I did look today. Trevor says, not the place, not the time for a new vehicle announcement. It's going to be fun in the hot Texas sun. Yes, it is, Jeff. I will see you in Monday. I think I'll see you. Need a dance option. I considered that instead. I did consider that. All right. So, if you're catching it on the replay, what did I miss? What did I misunderstand? Leave me all your thoughts, your wisdom, your juicy, blinding brilliance into them comments below. Stay tuned. Stay juicy. And I can't wait to hear from you clever robots in Texas.